Mr. Deluzio.
Sorry, didn't get finished.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would want to add one note to agree with Mr. Waltz. I share his concern about our NATO allies not yet meeting, or too many not meeting, their defense spending obligation. I'm encouraged by some of the progress on that front, but I share that concern as well. I want to spend my time on a different topic, though, shipbuilding and our defense industrial base. Yesterday, joint subcommittee hearing on the posture and readiness, the mobility enterprise, I heard some disturbing facts, including the average age of our sea lift fleet was being 44 years old. I think it was 17 vessels being more than 50 years old, or 50 years old and older. That the Maritime Administration's resorting to purchasing foreign-built ships. Despite clear direction from Congress over repeated years, the Navy hasn't allocated money to build new sea lift ships. In the FY23 Chief of Naval Operations Long-Range Shipbuilding Plan, there's no mention of building a new sea lift fleet, but rather only to buy used, which really means foreign, and refit. The decision to neglect shipbuilding, I think along with our government's past decisions across decades, to consolidate the defense industrial base and send our supply chains overseas, I think it's gutted this American industry, like so many others we've seen in our country. We take, at our peril, freedom of the seas for granted, I think, and I fear. We can't forget the disruption caused by our reliance on foreign supply chains. As ships stacked up outside harbors and ports during the worst of the pandemic, I think we'd be foolish to overlook the Chinese Communist Party's buildup in the east of and south of China seas and their growing potential to restrict shipping and access to those sea lanes in international waters. But simply, I think we have to build ships here, not just our naval vessels, our military ships, but others. A good example of this is the success of the national security multi-vision vessel in Philadelphia's shipyard. I think that investment in our shipbuilding infrastructure is critical and certainly part of deterring communist China. I don't think this is just the Navy's fault. I think Congress is to blame here as well. I heard from Admiral Phillips, the Maritime Administration, yesterday that although authorized in FY23 NDAA, sea lift recapitalization of the Ready Reserve Force was not funded, or to put it plainly, there was no funding for the program that invests in domestic shipbuilding infrastructure investment along the lines I'm discussing here. General Milley, I'll start with you, sir. Please explain as clearly as you can, how does this reliance on foreign-built ships impact our national security, our readiness?
I think you're talking commercial ships?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so look, at the United States over decades upon decades have outsourced our commercial shipbuilding programs. And that impacts our ability to conduct sea lift. And one of the fundamental characteristics of the U.S. military is power projection. We do that through airlift and sea lift, primarily by sea lift. 80% of the world's commerce goes over the ocean. So sea lift, the ability to produce ships, commercial shipping for sea lift, is fundamental, I think, to our national security. Unfortunately, we've outsourced it over many, many decades, yeah. And it probably needs a corrective over time.
Look, I think there are investment decisions this committee and this Congress has to make that reflect that we care about this. I certainly do. Secretary Oskin, I'll ask you a little different question. It's related. I've worried about the consolidation in the defense industrial base, something like a 90% reduction in the prime contractors since the 90s. How has that overly consolidated, and I think at times inadequate, defense industrial base impact our national security?
I share your concern that what we've seen over the years as the number of companies that we have participating competitively in this space has decreased. In some cases, it's provided advantage because we've been able to do things more efficiently. In other cases, it's taken away that competition that has kept us healthy. So I want to make sure that small businesses have a voice and they feel that they can compete, and we're working to provide the means for them to compete in this space. We've made a little progress, but there's a lot more to be done. But to answer your question, this is an area of concern. So.
Good. Gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.